morning, my friends. We are back, and we are feeling normal, and we are grateful for feeling normal. Today, we are diving into day number 2 of the book American Wife by Taya Kyle. Tremendous book, and one that I am glad I came across. I don't know what I was searching for, but I came across it, and I'm 1,000,000% glad that I did come across it, and that I did read it, and that we are covering it on today's show. I'll also say this. I started How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan, and it is a stinking awesome book. Dread, I mentioned to you that I was going to start it. I've started it, and it is a great read. So I'll be excited to cover that next on the show. But first, let's get back to the current book, American Wife by Taya Kyle. Love, War, Faith, and Renewal. And I also want to say that I am excited tomorrow to go back to my alma mater, Hollidaysburg, and speak to a 4th grade classroom at 410 Elementary School about some of the books that I've read in Ferdinand and After the Fall. So I'm extremely excited about that. Speaking to a classroom, not an auditorium. And we're just going to talk about the books. Here's the cool thing. They went through and read. So Mr. Wesner, John, my friend, classmate of mine, we got hired at the school district the same year, actually. He went through and actually read these books with his students beforehand. So it's like, that's the perfect scenario. The perfect scenario is that they read, cover the books, and then I come in, and then we just share my story, and then we dive into these books. And he sent me right here the students' reactions to the book, and I'm really excited for it. And yes, Dred, you are correct. I am feeling recovered. Although we didn't get much sleep last night, because a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old still don't sleep very well. So we did not sleep very well last night, but it is okay, because I made a resolution this year to sleep more, to rest when I need it. So I did. I slept more this morning. All right, let's dive into American Wife by Taya Kyle, numero dos. 1, 2, 3. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the Spaniard Show. This is the Spaniard, and this is AMXbooks 652. After a stint of not feeling so well yesterday, I feel a lot better, and I'm really excited. There's nothing better than getting well after feeling not well, because you appreciate everything so much more. Diving into the book American Wife by Taya Kyle, Love, War, Faith, and Renewal. So in today's reading, this is post-college and when she gets into the real world. How many of you have gotten post-college, you're 22, 23 years old, maybe even you went to grad school right away, and you think to yourself, I know what's up now. I'm an adult. I graduated from high school, went to college, then you get into the real world. And I would even say this, that transition to the real world didn't even smack me in the face so hard. It was having kids that's the real transition. But post-college, getting into the real world, we see our first glimpse of Taya's faith. So throughout this book, throughout this theme, and I would assume if you hear Taya talk or if you hear interviews with her, I would assume that her faith is as prominent in those talks as it is in the book. It is she's a very faithful person. It's what helped her get through her troubled times. And we see our first glimpse of faith as she gets into this real world situation. She says, quote, My life to that point was a battle between my practical, conservative side and a more free-spirited dreamer side. The stresses of her job and lack of relationship. So she gets into the real world. She understands that there's 2 sides of her, this practical side and this dreamer side, this free-spirited dreamer side. She says at that point in her life, the stresses of her job and the lack of relationship were this. Now hear this. Because in different ways, I was told this by my mom. I'm still told this by my mom. You hear it over and over from different situations. Listen to this. Quote, looking back, I feel as if God had to break me in a way. He had to let me feel the results of my stubbornness so that I could understand the beauty and potential of my life. I had to be convinced that I wasn't destined to be a loner. So she gets into the real world. She understands that it's getting real. Up to this point, her life was a battle between the practical, conservative side and a more free-spirited dreamer side. She gets into a job, extremely stressed, didn't have a relationship, and she says, look, I believe, looking back, that God had to break me. Right? He had to break me. He had to let me feel the results of my stubbornness so that I could understand the beauty and potential of life. I love this idea in that it's kind of the one, gratitude. I just said at the beginning of the show, I don't know if I said to Facebook Live or to you, that feeling sick and then feeling well, that you're so grateful for the simplicity of feeling well after you felt sick, taking cold showers. You appreciate not being freezing cold. You appreciate warmth after taking freezing showers. So she has this belief that God had to break her so she could realize the beauty and potential of life, to be convinced that she wasn't destined to be a loner. So her faith plays a major role in what was to come. And Taya, when you read this book, you're going to see all of the heartache and heartbreak and struggles and tests that she and her family were put through, not just with her husband's death, but with living life as the wife of a Navy SEAL. There's so much sacrifice involved, but she always had this unwavering, I took a note and I wrote unwavering faith, unwavering hope, unwavering belief, but I don't know if unwavering is the correct word, because it did waver. But how about convicted or non-destructible? How about that? Non-destructible faith, because no matter what, it wavered. She wondered, she asked, she questioned, but it never went away. It was always there. And there is power in that. And I was thinking that in relation to my life and other books that I read, that belief, that hope, that conviction, that faith is the most important part. The reality of that belief or hope, conviction, and faith, I think, is secondary. Look, I have said often that I believe in my heart and soul that I'm the best father in the world. Is that true? I doubt it. I'm sure there's better fathers than me. But as a fighter, you've got to believe that you're the best fighter in the world, or there leaves room for doubt. And I believe that falls in line with what we're talking about here in relation to Taya's faith. Moving on to the type of person that Chris was. So there's books that I read, there's interviews I see, documentaries I watch, conversations I have, where I feel better equipped as a human being after having listened, seen, watched particular things. And I feel like getting to know the type of person that Chris Kyle was makes me aspire to be a better person. It's the same thing with The Rock, same thing with watching, all these different people that I talk about. Mr. Rogers making me want to be a better teacher. It's like they have this energy or this transference of goodness that they send your way. So this is a glimpse early on into the type of person that Chris Kyle was. Quote, Chris was all about those breathtaking moments, riding broncs in the rodeo, jumping out of planes. He worked hard and played hard, but was just as likely to relax completely on the couch with a beer. It was a paradox. I loved both sides. There's two things that I want to note here. One, the fact she says that it was a paradox, okay? Earlier in my reading, earlier in today's lesson, we learned that Taya was somewhat of a paradox, whether that she had her practical side and her dreamer side. So maybe that is a commonality they shared together and what potentially brought them together. Pure speculation. And number two, I couldn't help but think of Johnny Waite. Remember Johnny Waite, my friend, my buddy, one of the hosts of the Spartan Hub podcast? Remember him saying that his goal was to live a lifetime of lifetimes of adventures of a lifetime? He wanted to fill his lifetime with adventures of a lifetime, a whole lifetime filled with adventures of a lifetime. It's like filling your drawer with only your favorite shirts. When I'm reading this about Chris Kyle, he was the type of guy that he enjoyed life. He appreciated life. He loved to do things. But he was a paradox. He loved to do the hardcore Navy SEAL, riding Broncos, etc., etc. But he also loved to sit down, talk with his family, drink a beer, and enjoy his downtime. And the last thing I want to talk about is, two of the themes that I consistently talk about. And that is selflessness and mission above self. So at the point of their marriage, Chris was already a SEAL. And the questions about their future, so they got into a relationship, and questions about their future started to arise. What I'm about to say speaks testaments to Taya as a person and their love as a whole. Quote, once they had gotten together, quote, then came 9/11, the tragic attack and the implications that going to war would have for Chris pushed me to think harder about my future, about our future. So they get into a relationship, 9/11 happens, the idea of him going to war comes up, and yet they still go on with this relationship. And I think it speaks a testament to, and again, I'm reading this book from the outside. I don't have any personal affiliation with Taya, with Chris. I connected with people in his circle in the military, but that's as far as it goes. One, the dose of selflessness, Taya, to understand, hey, I'm marrying a guy and this guy's going to go to war to fight for our freedoms and for our protection. Going into that is incredibly selfless. And then also the idea of the mission above self, because you have Chris who's marrying or falling in love with or going to marry Taya, and then he's also at the same time going off to war. It's not black and white. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. There's gray areas. There's things that don't make sense. But I thought that this is a great example on both of them of the idea of selflessness and our one of our most common themes, mission above self. And also, as I said yesterday, the seal divorce rate at this time was 95%. And again, that speaks a testament to their love and their relationship. This has been American Wife 2 by Taya. I encourage you to check out this book as well as every other book I read on charliespaniard.com/reading list. You can check out my speaking programs, links to youtube.com/charliespaniard, facebook.com/charliespaniard. We're not stopping, my friends. This is a learning machine. I'll see you tomorrow. AMXbooks 653. Hey, that's it, my friends. That's it. Good morning, Tori. Good to see you. Kind of what, I guess it's not West Coast. I guess it's Central. It's Colorado Central. I'll tell you, whenever I was fighting, I would just wake up and go train and then go home. And then that was that. I had no need for a calendar app. I had no need to really, this might make me sound kind of, I'm going to say, stupid. You didn't have to worry about time zones. The only time time zones mattered was when you were fighting in a city that had a different time. But doing what I'm doing now, it's like I have to learn all these time zones. Obviously, California is 3 hours, but there's like Mountain, Central. I don't even know. Yeah, Tori just said we are Mountain Time, 4:45, and it's 6:45 where I am. Not only the wonder of the internet, live streaming, but the wander of time. Who would have ever known? Who would have ever known? I don't even know what I'm talking about. Anyway, folks, I will see you back tomorrow. A reminder, subscribe on iTunes. Search out Spaniard Show. That'll help hold Spanny, and that'll help spread this message. Leave a review if you haven't left a review. Up to 101. That's pretty cool. And my website, charliespaniard.com, for anything and everything that you could ever want on your lifelong learning journey. I'll see you tomorrow.